Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, I'm going to go over game 30 of a First Book of Morphy. We have Paul Morphy playing Augustus Mongredian with a 2 knights defense. We are in middle game rule number 2, when a hidden material exchange as many pieces as possible, especially queens. Before we start the game, since this is a new middle game rule, the author has like 4 paragraphs kind of describing why trading pieces when a hidden material, what's the reason behind that. Again, the author pretty much says that when you trade pieces, when you're up a piece, is to reduce the chances of your opponent having a counterplay, a counterattack. Again, it's just to limit the possible counterattack. Again, if you're behind in development, if you're behind in time, if your opponent has like 2 or 3 more pieces developed than you do, then trading pieces and your opponent is attacking, and when you trade pieces, it will lessen the punches. Again, especially the queen, because the queen is the most powerful piece, attacking piece. So let's switch over and I'll go over the game. Again, e4, e5. We have the 2 knights defense. Knight g5, d5. E captures, knight a5. D3, and here we have H6, Knight F3, and Bishop G4. And here the book notes that the better move was to go E4. So that the book said that this was a better move. So again, meeting knight E5 with the greater threat and undermining the defender of the bishop. So let's go ahead and continue the game. H3. And now after bishop G4, black has to trade on F3 or else he's going to lose a pawn. Right. So bishop H5, G4, bishop G6, and then knight captures the pawn on E5. And then now white is up 2 pawns and is looking to probably to start trading down pieces. So we have the trade here on F3. Now again, notice this is a positional kind of awareness, right? Notice that the queen could go F5 here to increase its positional in the board, in the chessboard. But again, black, this is kind of like a hole here, right? That white could potentially go. However, black has this move pawn to G6, kicking the queen out if the queen ever goes to F5. This is something to be aware, right? Okay, so bishop to D6. And now bishop B6 or bishop B5. Again, moving the bishop again, but it's with a threat. And now white has the bishop on C6, I in C6. The pawn on D5 is I in C6. And the queen is also X-raying through the pawn, the square C6. So there's a lot of pressure on the C6 square. So then black goes C6. And then pawn captures, bishop captures with check, knight captures, and queen captures. Okay, so we have king e7, and then here you have to be aware of some of the threats for black, right? So you have to know that black is probably going to look to gain a tempo on the queen with rook to c8, right? So now what happens if, let's say you didn't see that and you castle, well, you're going to lose a pawn, right? If you castle, now black goes rook c8, you go queen f3, get your queen out of the way, and then you have the rook captures on c2, and now you just lost a pawn. So you have to be aware of this. So white goes knight to c3. And then rook c8. And then queen f3. Notice again, there's a positional hole here that the queen could use the square on f5 in the future. But we do know that black has g6 to cover that square in case that happens. So black plays rook c8, rook to e8. Now white castles, and here the book just mentions that knight d5 is a blunder, because when you capture, black has a discovery check and you're going to lose the queen. So let's go ahead and continue. King f8, bishop d2, and here the author just comments that this is an uncommonly modest developing move. And again, I was playing guessing the moves on some of these moves, and what I would probably play in this position, what I guess intuitively came up with was rook to e1. So the book notes comments uncommonly modest developing move, taking the sting out of bishop b4. But failing to threaten with bishop e3, right? So not I guess not aggressive, but just kind of modest, right? And then g5. So this is like, okay, this, you should know that with this, black messes up their king side structure, so they should kind of send alarms in your mind, right? Here the author notes this is an aimless move, exposing black's king and severely weakening the pawn structure. Okay. And here again, the author recommends e4 for black. Pawn captures on e4, and then bishop a3 with a discovered attack on this bishop on a2, and then also the bishop on a3 can attack b2, which is a support for the c3 knight. Instead, we have g5, h4, knight h7. So now, again, the knight was covering h7, right? So now, when the knight retreats, now we can go with queen f5. It seems like the best time now with that move to go queen f5. And white does go with queen f5. Huge hole on f5 from which the white queen has her eyes on several black pieces. So it's an excellent positional move for white. King g7. H captures on g5. Again, to attack the enemy king, first open a file to gain access for the heavy pieces. And here, the author mentions that black captures with the pawn. If he were to capture with the knight, then this pawn on h6 becomes a target. So that's why black decided to capture with the knight, with the pawn. So g3 with the idea of going king g2 for white and rook h1 for white. And now here, if you are black, you have to stop this attack as soon as possible. So here you have to trade queens. Play queen f6 and either trade by recapturing with knight f6, or if white retreats the queen, then you try to involve your rooks or maybe put your king in a better safety position, but you have to immediately challenge the queen and get it off the f5 square. And again, so when I was playing through the moves, and I guess this move for black, I was expecting queen f6, or maybe rook e6 to rook f6. Again, black goes just f6, pawn f6. Okay, king g2, rook h8, rook h1, rook c7. So now there's a forking threat. So that's something you gotta be to watch your eyes out for. The knight can come into b5 and fork your bishop and your rook. Okay, white plays rook h2, queen c8, and then here is a position from the thumbnail, and this is the rule number 2, right? When a headed material, exchange as many pieces as possible, especially the queens. And here, white is up. Again, I was just counting material, but white is up 2 pawns, and it looks like he has a better position. White's king is safer compared to black's king. The queen is in a better position, you know. And here, white decides to trade queens. So queen captures c8, rook captures on c8. rook h1. And then here with this move knight to f8, we have an idea, right? If white could trade the knight on d6, and if the rook has the defending capture, then we have the rook and the knight on the same diagonal. So this could be like a tactic. And this is what happens in the game. Black defends with the rook, and then now the rook captures, and then we have bishop to b4. So here, after bishop to b4, black resigns. The author just gives a continuation, which I'm going to go ahead and play. And the author just mentions that this is a winning endgame for white. Okay. Now let's review quickly. So with the computer analysis, the computer just says that there was 2 inaccuracies and 1 mistake, and the mistake was on move 7 for black to bishop to g4. So let me add the evaluation gauge. So bishop to g4 was a mistake, and then here it gives a negative 0.2 for black, and with bishop g4 now it's plus 1.2 for white. So this was the mistake of the game, and some moves are inaccurate. And let's go ahead and replay it. So let's go ahead and look through the lens of here of just like a regular normal chess player. Again, if you want to play positionally, you might see this and you might play g6 right away to take away the f5 square from the queen, and then you could play your rook to e8 and then your king to f8, right? In a different whichever move order you want, although I think it does matter. So here black plays rook e8 first. Okay, king f8, and then this was an inaccuracy. So yes, maybe g6 to take away f5, but I just don't see what's the plan behind g5 to keep attacking. So this was a big question mark. And again, and again, you need in this position you need to play the queen here as soon as possible. The queen is too strong. The white queen is too strong in this position, so it needs to be challenging and get off that f5 square as soon as possible. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.